Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Java with Lava. This is our market take for Monday, July 31st, 2023. There is a tremendous amount to go over today, so forgive me, I'm going to skip through a bit of the markets. I've also got to get this out prior to the open. So as you can see, we've got basically in the US markets, we're looking for a green open and continuation. We've already got the NASDAQ up 266 points, as well as the Dow and the S&P kind of lagging a bit behind. Gold under slight pressure. The VIX is coming up in oil. I expect oil to head a little closer to that 82 range prior to having that short pullback and then continuing. Probably tomorrow, not likely today. So we'll also keep our eyes on the 10-year. And these are basically bond rates in general for the different countries. We've also got our futures are looking green. Silver is pretty flat, actually. We've got Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are still below the critical 30,000 level that we're looking at for it to break before this continuation. And then the dollar we're watching as well, 101.66. Not much news coming out today. For reports, we've got a Fed Senior Loan Survey. We are looking at earnings as well from SoFi, which is basically headed in with student loans. And so we will be watching it for that. I wanted to bring up this story because this is the Federal Reserve Neel Kashkari, and his quote saying the Fed pulling off a soft landing would be a resounding positive income, because he's generally a little more bearish than some of the other Federal Reserve presidents, but this him with his Lex Luthor look and his crazy eyes. So I just thought I'd put a picture of him in here for you for Monday. But we got to move on. So another story coming out, it's Los Angeles, the rent repayment deadline, which is tomorrow, August 1st. And so tenants have until tomorrow to pay any missing rent that was back from the pandemic period from 2020 to 2021. And they're expecting some evictions to start happening from this. But I mean, that's been quite a long time. So we'll kind of keep an eye on how that would affect real estate. I expect it more to be local than anything. The bigger story in my mind is the commercial real estate. The analysis for commercial real estate investors: banks buckle up for a perfect property storm. So part of what they're talking about is the debt. Global banks, as you can see here, I took excerpts, hold about 6 trillion outstanding commercial real estate debt. Moody's Investor Service said with the largest share maturing 2023, which is late this year, starting next month, into 2026. U.S. banks have already revealed spiraling losses from property in the first half figures, and they are warning us more is coming, more losses are coming in this sector. So on the back of this, we've got businesses that are under pressure to slash their carbon footprint, which is not an inexpensive endeavor. So HSBC is among those cutting the amount of space that they're renting, and they're terminating their leases at offices no longer considered quote unquote green enough. They've got they're measured by their ESG numbers, which, as I said before, this is basically like a social credit score for businesses. And if the businesses don't cut the grade, then they won't be able to get their lending, or they will be barred from many other things. So I'm going to kind of glaze over that for now, but there's much more to it. So more than 1 billion square meters of office space globally will need to be retrofitted before 2050. This means 17.9% more likely to default on their debt than just 6 months ago. That's tremendous. I want to move on to the next story. This is related to the cryptocurrencies, because Southeast Asia moves closer to an economic unity with their new regional payment system. So this is the ASEAN nations, their version of the FedNow payment system, which just rolled out in the US. The central bank kind of building that rails for the central bank digital currencies, which I believe they will be going into. So there's more into this, talking about the residents that it is included with Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. So they are on this now. And that will be spreading even further. Got to get to this story because war is big business. So they had drone attacks damaging office buildings in Moscow. And Zelensky quoting, "The war is returning to the territory of Russia." You don't know about that guy. Anyway, Saudi Arabia is considered the neutral party between the two, so they will be hosting the Ukrainian Russian organized peace summit in August. We'll see how that goes. I don't expect a lot because, as I said, war is big business. Have any doubts? Stick with me. Got a couple more stories to support it. Lockheed Martin lands a new multi-billion-dollar deal in Europe. So I just pulled out the highlights of this, but basically, last month, US Defense Secretary Cooperation Agency notified Congress they have a planned sale of 24 new F-35A aircraft to the Czech Republic. They are a NATO member. This is really kind of riding that fine line. So this would include the cost of the engines to fly the planes, a few hundred bombs and missiles to arm them, and other related equipment, estimating the total cost of this arms sale at $5.6 billion. They say that not all this money will go to Lockheed Martin, of course. The company was named one of 3 principal contractors in the arms deal. The other 2 are being RTX Corporation, still better known as Raytheon, which they were the ones that I was talking about 2 weeks ago when I brought up Raytheon, that they were going to have a boom because of the war, as well as Boeing, who also has their leg in the private sector. But at $70 million apiece, the 24 F-35As will still yield a cool $1.7 billion in incremental revenue to Lockheed Martin, plus billions more from maintaining and upgrading the aircraft over time. So this is a huge deal. Just something I wanted to throw out there so you could keep your eyes on it. Okay, I've got a couple of interesting points that I wanted to bring up to you. For Nigeria, because they just had a coup, for those that are not aware, their main export and revenue is oil. Their number 2 is rare minerals needed for electric vehicles. So they just had this coup happen, just something for thought. They also are a major testing ground for central bank digital currency, as they were just forced into using the e-naira. So they were close to outlawing their physical currency, and this is part of what's going on there behind these easy headlines you will see coming from them. So on the one side, we've got the chants and shouts from the people saying, "Niger belongs to us." The military coup supporters attacked the French embassy. Thousands of demonstrators in Niger marched through the country's capital, and they are basically supporting this military coup because there's just massive amounts of corruption there. And so they've given the ministry there a couple of days to come up with why there are so many billions of dollars in just lost off of their treasury's books, or he will face the firing line, is what they told him. So we'll keep our eyes on that development. And then the last part of this story that I have is that Macron, of course. A story from Reuters: any attack on French interests in Niger will spur a swift response, according to Macron. And so basically, his interests are in the money and the trade that is still going on, and a lot of the corruption. I think that it's clear to see that he's pretty well tied into it. And he just said specifically in his statement that they would not tolerate any attacks against France or interests, including diplomats, armed forces, or businesses. So, with that, what do you think of this? If you liked any of the material in here, please hit the like. Gotta get going, let you go. The markets are about to open. I wish you all a green trading day. Just a wonderful day in general. Please leave me a comment if you have a moment. And until I see you again, stay free, my friends.